Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the creator of the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight I want to focus on a video that's been going around on social networks as of late. This what I love about the social media era. I'm not addicted to social networks or anything, but I can definitely say when you have thousands, millions of people, sharing their thoughts, sharing videos and sharing just interesting things, it can be very it's a great tool to have. So I came across this video that had been shared at least 3 or 4 times in the last few days. And I says, wow, I definitely got to do something with this. So today's video, I'm talking about an old interview with a legendary actress. Well, if you saw her name in English, it would look like Ruth de Souza. But interestingly enough, when you get to learn Portuguese and you get accustomed to how Brazilians speak, you come to find out that her name is actually pronounced Ruth de Souza. Now, funny thing is, when I first started getting into Brazil and I saw how Brazilians would say the name Ruth, and it would come out as Hoochie. I was like, wow, don't ever use that term to define a black woman in the United States. I'm like, it's just intriguing because as you learn Portuguese, you have to adapt to how you have to, whenever you're trying to learn a new language, you have to adapt to the way that, vowels and consonants and all of these things are pronounced because it's going to be different depending on, what your native language might be. So, as I've said, I've been doing the Brazil thing or digging into Brazil, Coisas do Brasil, for about 23 years now. And Ruth de Souza is one of the first actresses that I came across, and I wanted to learn her story. As I've said over the years, as much as Brazil likes to deny it, it's always been very exclusionary when it comes to Afro-Brazilians. So you have a handful of Afro-Brazilian actresses, from the 50s and 60s or whatever, who made names for themselves. But like I said, just like a handful. There's a couple features that I want to do. I mean, there's always so much to talk about. But Ruth de Souza, Ruth de Souza, as they would say, is perhaps the most important Afro-Brazilian actress of her era. Ruth de Souza passed away, I think, in 2019. But a number of Afro-Brazilian actors and actresses have talked about how this woman, paved the way for the new generation of Afro-Brazilian actresses, right? You go back to the era of theater or just the genre of theater in Brazil, and for years, the saying was the only thing Black people can do on a Brazilian stage for theater is to sweep the floors. So it was sometime in the early to mid 1940s, 1944, if I'm not mistaken, that the great Abdias do Nascimento, he came up with the idea of creating the Black experimental theater. That's in Brazil, it's known as the Teatro Experimental do Negro, so the Black experimental theater, because he got fed up with not seeing Black representation on Brazilian, theater stages. I think he might have been in Peru where he saw a white actor portrayed in blackface to portray the famous theater piece known as Othello. Brazil has its own history with blackface also, something that I'm going to have to get to, for a while, as I've said, I've seen so much blackface going on in Brazil in the last decade. It's almost like, is Brazil the new home of blackface? But I don't want to get sidetracked here. I just want to focus on Ruth de Souza, Ruth de Souza, as they say. What can be said about an actress? Who can I use that would give you an understanding of what her place is in Brazilian entertainment as a Black actress? So the closest person I could come to, now this is Ruth de Souza. This is a page from Wikipedia. She was born May 12th, 1921, and she died on July 28th. Oh, isn't that intriguing? I just thought about this, but July 28th, I'm recording this video on July 29th, and that's the day that she passed away in 2019. I didn't even realize that. A lot of people were sharing a video of her that I'm going to share with you all today because of the recent July 25th. It's recognized in Latin America and the Caribbean as the day of the, let me get this right, the Latin America and Caribbean Black Women Day. Is July 25th is celebrated in, Latin America, the Caribbean, in a lot of countries. And come to think of it, I think this is part of the reason a lot of people were sharing this interview of Ruth de Souza. Okay, but the closest thing I would say to get you to understand what she really means, her importance for Black actresses in Brazil, would be somebody like Cicely Tyson. And interestingly, they lived almost the same amount of time. I think that Ruth de Souza lived until age 98. And Cicely Tyson, as we can see here, died in 2021. I think she was 96, maybe. Yeah, I think she was about 96. So this is the closest I could come to giving you an idea of the importance of the legendary Ruth de Souza. When I think about Ruth de Souza, one of the first films that I ever saw, when I first started, when you get into a new, what can we say, hobby or interest, you dive into it. And it was like those first few years, I was just trying to get as much as I could to learn about, the situation of Black Brazilians. And I remember, I think well, I know for a fact, the first movie that I ever saw that featured Ruth de Souza was a 1994 film called Boca, right? It starred Ray Dawn Chong. And you see here, it says an enthusiastic American journalist goes to Brazil as the carnival starts to investigate mass executions of street kids. She meets a savage crime boss called Boca, and Boca means mouth, who seemingly wants to help the children and falls for his brutal charm, it says, right? So I don't remember the year of the original Boca. I think the original Boca was called Boca de Ouro, which means golden mouth. This guy had a mouthful of golden teeth. And they remade it in 1994. And then from what I understand, I think another one was made in 2010. So the first time I ever seen Ruth de Souza, she actually was in this film and she actually spoke English. So first time I heard and I connected who Ruth de Souza was, she was actually speaking English in a film. So just to give you an idea of how important this actress is, I mean, just some of the articles that I have on the blog talks about, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this feature on Google called Google Doodle, where they choose an important person and put them on the front page of Google for the day. So I think it was back in May of 2021, Google, the Brazilian edition, posted a photo of or an image of Ruth de Souza to celebrate what would have been her 100th birthday. In 2019, when she passed away, just numerous Afro-Brazilians came together to pay tribute to her after she passed away here. Ruth de Souza is a pioneer, or she was a pioneer of Black representation in television. So this is a little, an article that I did back in 2019 that spoke on her being a pioneer of Black representation in Brazilian television. And let me see. So let me just do a quick intro with this. Mind you, this was shortly after she had passed away. And I said, we always know that death will eventually come to pass. But if someone dear to our families, friends, people who we admire, people with notorious representations, and yes, ourselves, or rather, be it someone dear to our families, friends, people who we admire, people with notorious representations, and yes, ourselves. When I first started doing research on the Black influence in Brazil, I can remember the first time I ever saw the veteran actress, Ruth de Souza. It was in a film called Boca from 1994. As it turns out, that film was actually an American Brazilian remake of the previous Brazilian film from 1990, which itself was adopted from a play and a 1962 film written by famed director Nelson Pereira dos Santos. The film told the story of Boca de Ouro, meaning mouth of gold or golden mouth, and for good reason, due to the character's noteworthy dental work. The crime boss was abandoned by his mother, the leader of a drug trafficking gang, in a filthy bathroom. The erotic thriller focuses on the gangster's telling of his life story to an American reporter known as JJ. played by actress Rae Dawn Chong. As it turns out, the film would become my first or become my introduction to the rampant extermination of street kids in Brazil, a topic that has been featured periodically in the, well, name of my blog is now Black Brazil Today Archives. It was formerly known as Black Women of Brazil. De Souza played a character known as Senhora Esteban. JJ interviews the notorious Boca, who takes on the businessman who were behind the murder of the children, who they blame for scaring away clients. This B film hardly scratches the surface of the importance of the career of Ruth de Souza, as I would later see in a number of other films, as well as documentaries and novellas, such as O Assalto ao Trem Pagador, Sim a Moça, A Negação do Brasil, As Filhas do Vento e Duas Caras. So those last three, A Negação do Brasil, I've spoken much about it in my videos. It's a documentary from either the late, somewhere between 99 and 2002, I would say. It was a book and a documentary. It was translated as Denying Brazil. And it was by film director Joel Zito Araújo. And in this documentary, he just showed the stereotypes of how Black Brazilians are presented in the ever popular novellas, you know, what they call soap operas in Brazil. Ruth de Souza also played in his, I forget what year this movie came out, 2004 or 5, As Filhas do Vento. And then she was also in a very popular novella known as Duas Caras, okay? Although I've never actually seen the novella A Cabana do Pai Tomás, I have read a number of reports about this soap opera over the years, as it was my introduction to Brazil's usage of white actors to portray Black characters by painting them in blackface, a practice that has its own history in Brazil and which has stirred up controversy even in recent years. As I've said, in the last 10 years, you get the idea that Brazil seems to be wanting to take its place as the new global home of blackface. In the past few years, the great Ruth de Souza was featured in a book and a film about her trailblazing career. And in 2013, a number of the current generation of Black Brazilian actors and actresses paid homage to her at the 12th edition of the Grande Prêmio do Cinema Brasileiro, which means basically it's like the Brazilian edition. It's like a Brazilian type of Oscar ceremony, a moment in which I felt a sort of joy mixed with sadness, as it was one of those goosebumpy sort of feelings that you feel pride in. Such a deserving person being honored for her life's works by the actors for whom she paved the role for, but also a realization that Ruth may not be with us much longer. So this was 2013. She would live another 6 years. Ruth passes away after living 1 year longer than her mentor, who I just mentioned, the great Abdias do Nascimento, the man who helped her start her career with his groundbreaking Black experimental theater that gave opportunities to Black actors that Brazil's stages at the time would not. Thank you, Queen Ruth, for your legacy. Generations of Afro-Brazilian actors continue to advance the role of Black people in Brazil's entertainment business. Okay, so that was just a short, I'm not going to read the whole thing there. That was my introduction to another article where people were just paying homage to Ruth de Souza. This is what I mentioned a little while ago. What would have been her 100th birthday, Google Doodle, and Afro-Brazilian actors pay homage to the legendary actress. So this was what Google Doodle put out. When Brazilian actor or actress Ruth de Souza stepped out from behind the curtain at Rio de Janeiro's Municipal Theater in 1945, she made history as the first Black performer on this stage, or to take this stage, rather. So just can't speak on the importance of Ruth de Souza at that time. Let me see what else I can pull from here. Just some vintage photos of Ruth de Souza. This is her performing in a play put on by the Black Experimental Theater. Okay. All of these people just paying homage to Ruth de Souza. You have Camila Pitanga and her father, Antonio Pitanga, here. Famous father-daughter actor and actress in Brazil. This is Chris Viana, who is actually responsible for where a lot of people posted the video I'm going to cover today, but I got it actually from Chris Viana's page on Instagram. You have Zize Mota, who is also a longtime actress. Zize Mota should be about 79 by now. I think this might be Lázaro Ramos giving Ruth de Souza, a hug. Let's see what else we have here. So this is when she passed away in 2019, and the tributes continued to pour in on social networks. Everybody paying homage to, the departing actress. This was Ruth de Souza just shortly before she passed away. But as you can see, she started her acting career in the black and white era in Brazil's entertainment industry. Okay. Again, this is with arguably the top Afro-Brazilian actor, Lázaro Ramos. Okay. This is actress Adriana Lessa with Ruth de Souza and others. This was from an article I did a few years ago. Current, I'd say top Afro-Brazilian actress is Thais Araújo. I always have to mention, she is Lázaro Ramos's wife. And again, Zezé Mota, three generations of Afro-Brazilian actresses. Maybe one day I will cover this entire article, but I'm going to keep it moving. This is from 2013. Afro-Brazilian actors pay homage to Ruth de Souza, 92, a pioneering Black actress of Brazilian cinema. So this was at the, again, Brazil's own cinema awards, you could say film industry awards, called the Grande Prêmio do Cinema Brasileiro. The ceremony is actually, how we call the Academy Awards, the Oscars. They have been using, they created a statue. It's somewhat similar to the Oscar award, but they used a very important Black actor known as Grande Otelo, and they actually made his image into the statue. So when people win this award at the the edition of Brazil's Oscars, they win this statue that's kind of molded after Grande Otelo. So let me see what else I can talk about here. So Ruth de Souza in the 1960s, and this is at the ceremony in November of that year. This is Lázaro Ramos. These are all well-known actors and actresses in Brazil's entertainment circles. This is Lázaro Ramos kissing the hand of Ruth de Souza during the tribute. Everybody showing their respect and adoration for her. All right. Let me see. So I covered that article, and it might have been taken from this piece right here. It says emotion and tears mark the grand prize, or the grand award of Brazilian cinema. And this is where they honored Ruth de Souza that year. Okay. Let me see what else here I want to talk about. Okay, so in a long career, as you can see, looked like her first film role was from 1948. And this might be a short list of all of her appearances. This is up to 2004. So you can see a career that spanned, well, that's just into 2004, because she continued even after that. But this is what I'm saying. I'm quite sure this list is not even a complete list of all of the appearances she made in film and, television series and novellas and such. What else do I want to talk about here? Let me actually just go ahead and get into the interview that people have been sharing, for the last few days. I call this article, "Sorry, There's No Role for You." In 1977 interview, legendary actress Ruth de Souza details difficulties of being a Black actress in Brazil. Okay. So these are some stills that's taken from that interview that I'm going to go through right now. And, here it is. What is this? I guess 46 years later. And even though it is changing in Brazil's entertainment industry, you're finding more Black protagonists on the big screen and the small screen, but it's still coming along pretty slow, even though I can say in the last 10 years, we've seen a lot more advances. But I want to get directly into the interview. This is a longer interview, but people just snip this little section out. It's like a minute and a half. So I just want to play this interview for you. I will interpret this again, as the interview is recorded in her native Portuguese. So I will do, I guess I'll do an overdub in English. So check this out. I had limitations because of the fact that I was Black. So with the fact that I was a Black actress, they always said, I wanted to work with you in this movie so much, but there's no role for you. I've always heard that since I started my career. Oh, I have this soap opera. I really wanted you to work on this soap opera, but there's no role for you. In the theater, the same thing, because it was marked that the Black actress has to play that kind of role. So my fight is to break this taboo, and it's not easy. These 32 years, I have been fighting for this. It reminds me of my mother, who always said that if I wanted to do things, she would say, we have to conform. I don't know what you want. You always want too much. And I said, no, we can't stand still. Nobody can stand still in any profession. I think we have to fight very hard to accomplish our things, because we have a lot of good things to say and a lot of things to do. And sometimes they don't let us. And sometimes people don't understand you. Sometimes they don't even know you're capable of doing it. Then they say, well, you did that role. What a wonderful thing. It's not wonderful. I'm like that. You don't know me. Okay, again, so those were words from Ruth de Souza, spoken in an interview on a television station in Rio de Janeiro back in 1977. So, as I've said, this particular snippet has been shared by a number of people over the last few days. The other one that I've discovered today was from actress Chris Viana, seen in this photo with Ruth de Souza. So I wanted to just highlight some of the comments that were made when Chris Viana shared the video. Chris Viana herself, again, this lady here, she says, on this day of Black, Latin, and Caribbean women, I shared this speech by one of my greatest inspirations. It was she, Dona Ruth de Souza, one of the women who opened the doors so that I and so many other Black actresses today could build a different trajectory. We continue to fight for an even better future with more opportunities. Thank you, my queen. Now, you notice that she used the word Donna. This just, it's whereas in English, the word Donna is somebody's name. Donna, it means like lady. It's like saying miss. It's a way of saying, addressing someone with respect, right? Dona Ruth de Souza. Okay. The next comment says everything that the great Ruth de Souza said is true. How many people with their talents limited by lack of opportunity? Next comment says women of strength. It was like this with Grande Otelo, Mussum, and so many standing out over all the difficulties. Now, I already talked about Grande Otelo. His image and likeliness, his likeness is actually shown on the statue for Brazil's version of the Oscars, one of Brazil's greatest actors. Very short guy. I don't know if Grande Otelo might have been about 4'10". He was a very short guy. And Mussum, samba singer, part of one of the great samba groups of all time, but he probably was more famous as being like a comedic actor. There's actually a film that's out about his life right now. Next comment says, very beautiful to see her speaking with great purity in her heart. The human race is like that. Whoever loves his neighbor cures all kinds of diseases, including racism. Okay. So this is just a few of the things that people had to say about this video. There's plenty more comments where that came from. As I said, this has been a very popular video over the last few days. Let me see what else I wanted to focus on here. So I spoke on Chris Viana. And Chris Viana is a very popular actress. I wouldn't say she's top, but she's very well known. Most people would know Chris Viana if they saw her walking down the street. I've done a few articles about Chris, or just talking about her. In 2019, she stated, people are more cognizant of the role that skin color and race plays in opportunities in Brazil. I mean, it's clear. She said in 2019 that with the resume I have, I would be a millionaire, maybe if I wasn't Black. Actress Chris Viana gets real about being Black in Brazil's entertainment industry. This is another piece from 2017 where she talked about the importance of having Black dolls. Even with them being rare in Brazil, she has a collection of about 60 to 70 Black dolls. There's a whole lot of other stuff I could say about Chris Viana, but I just, like I said, she's well known. I just wanted to introduce my audience. One of these days, I have to do a full piece on Chris Viana. I think Chris is probably about 46 by now, maybe. She's in her mid to late 40s, if I'm not mistaken, by now. And then speaking on the role of Black women in Brazil's media, and there's a lot to be said about that. From the Mammy to the Carnaval Mulata, Black women's representation on Brazil's airwaves remains very limited. Now, they don't actually use the term mammy, but they do have a term that people loosely, well, I can't say necessarily a mammy. You could, well, in some ways that it is something similar to the mammy, but they call this particular character in Brazil the Mãe Preta, the Black Mother. And the mulata, just the term itself, it symbolizes a Black woman who's being sexualized because of her image. So in the novellas, you're going to either have the Mãe Preta, the Aunt Jemima mammy type, the generally the very dark skinned, often overweight woman who spends all of her time in the kitchen or taking care of the kids or, cleaning up in the house of, like a middle class white family. Or you're going to have her as the sensuous mulata who uses her body to get advantages in society or just with the men that she's dealing with. Okay. So, we've seen these common stereotypes in American media. So you'll see the same in Brazil. This actress, Jacida Sampaio, she's playing a character known as Tia Nastasia. You see, she's dressed up as the maid. Then you have Valeria Valença, pop. She made her name for dancing, basically almost naked for these Carnival commercials that would come on in the 90s. I think they retired this character, this woman who signals the coming of Carnival, but there were 4 or 5 women who came after her who played the same role, and Black women rallied to get that image off of TV. What else? Okay, so as you can see, how many roles can you have of Black women playing a role in Brazil's novellas? Okay. What actress has not played, what Black actress who's been featured in a novella has not played a maid at one time in her career? Okay. So from the Mãe Preta to the mulata. So this was a contest actually to choose the new Carnival poster girl or whatever. She was called the Globaliza, and you can see this was like a reality show to choose the new girl. And you see they're all dressed this way. So it's like when you say mulata in Brazil, it's not just a person of mixed race. It's generally considered a Black woman who usually has medium to light brown skin, and she's supposed to be like sexually alluring. Okay. Another maid role. This was the darkest woman who ever won that Globaliza contest. And as fate would have it, they took her off the air because people complained about her. Is it a coincidence she was taken out of this role because she was considered too dark? This was a big story back in the day. I don't know what year that was, maybe 2015. I did an interview with The Guardian about this particular story. It was just ridiculous what they did to this lady. So these are 4 of the women who have played the Globaliza Mulata from 1991 to 2014. So again, either they're maids or the mulatas on television. This article from 2015, actress Lucy Ramos, she turns down the slum character to play a psychologist in another novella. She says, "We Blacks always interpret maids, slaves, or we are in inferior situations." This is Lucy Ramos. So she was speaking out on her own encounters, some of the roles that she's been offered, right? Then you have, I have to read this article again, it's from 2018, but I think somebody's father, either the father of a Black actor or a Black actress, said to him or her, who do you think you are? Like, you are Black. Do you think they'll give you an acting opportunity that is not a slave or a maid? So somebody actually said this to somebody. Like, Black Brazilians know how they're portrayed on television. And so I think this was a parent speaking to his son or daughter in terms of being an actor or actress on Brazilian television. Like, this is what you're going to get. Black actors speak of the difficulty working in the Brazilian market. So this is another excellent story that I'll have to cover one day. This is from a novella that made international news because it was set in Bahia, particularly the capital of the state, Salvador, where it's known for its large Black population. But yet when this novella first came out, you didn't see any Black actors on the show, or if there were just a couple. Okay. So this is why the advances that Afro-Brazilians have made in Brazil's media is such a big deal. And this harks back to what I'm saying about Ruth de Souza, because she laid the groundwork. Now it's easy for Afro-Brazilian actresses to get in the entertainment business, but there's still a long ways to go, as the old cliche says. But I'm curious to know what you thought about today's video. Definitely drop a comment in the comment section. Consider subscribing to this channel, share this video, like this video, comment on this video. Click on the notification bell so that you'll be one of the first people to receive my videos or be alerted of my videos as I put them up. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and request that you come and check out my next video.